I keep seeing propaganda posted on my Facebook friends' pages. These are Christians, mind you. Come take a drive with me and let's talk about propaganda. Who's its target audience? Why does it work? In order to understand this, you need to understand how a brain is wired from childhood. Picture a child raised in a rigid, rule-based environment, where if a rule was broken, a punishment was received. So it was broken rule, then punishment. And this is from early on. You are literally a little toddler. You obey, you get your blanket, you get your meal. You disobey, you get the belt, you get the silent treatment, the withdrawal of love. Those are the weapons, punishment and withdrawal of love. And it creates a constant environment of fear that locks the developing brain into a survival loop. It floods their body with the stress hormone and literally rewires the nervous system around that alarm blaring. When you're a child, your brain hasn't even developed enough to understand the concept of a rule. So setting the rule is setting your child up for failure and punishment instantly. And if you're saying, so what, are we just not supposed to have any rules? That's a very binary way of thinking, and that's part of the problem also, and we can talk about that in a later video. To then enforce the rule and punish you keeps your body in a state of chronic fear. That conditioned fear primes the brain's threat detection for life. It builds an adult whose psychology runs on three things: a craving for strong authority, a loyalty that needs an enemy, and a rigid tribal code. They're the target audience because they were programmed to be. Next, we have the control mechanism, and it works by exploiting that wiring. First, it needs a seed, a tiny piece of something real. In this case, it was the car moving near an officer, towards an officer. From that second of chaos, they constructed a story designed for one purpose, and that is to trigger the fear center in the brain, the amygdala. They used specific loaded language. A week later, they claimed the agent had internal bleeding to the torso. Why would they come out with that information a week later? The wording is medical. It's dire. It's meant to set off an alarm. The officer got hurt. He got attacked. Once that alarm's blaring, your access to your prefrontal cortex, the part that allows you to question things and reason things out, that gets swamped, fogged out. You're now in survival mode. And then they amplify. They repeat the story over and over again, and they package it in a tribal slogan. It becomes agent attacked, defends life. And the goal is to shift the question from what happened to which side are you on. That's when the dehumanizing labels get applied. Like when Secretary Kristi Noem labeled Renee Good a domestic terrorist. That language is a neurological command. It makes your choice for you. Loyalty becomes a biological impulse. There's no thoughtful decision. You can't even access that part. And at that point, if someone tries to show you evidence otherwise, because your brain is flooded with the stress hormones, it can't process a logical argument. It's like speaking a different language. And so here's the final step. It becomes enforcing that tribal reality. So any fact is seen as an attack on the tribe itself. The video showing the car turning away gets dismissed. The medical timeline that states he went in later that day and was released that afternoon, that gets ignored. This is when the tribal logic kicks in. And this slogan, their latest slogan, makes it plain. One of ours, all of yours. Once you see the pattern, you recognize it's predatory, and it's a mechanical process. It systematically replaces what happened with what works. It swaps evidence for a trigger. It trades truth for a tribal reality that keeps the fear center active and the reasoning center quiet. And that activated, muted state, that's the whole point. That's the green light the machine was built to get. That's when that harmful language gets accepted, like labeling Renee Good a domestic terrorist. That's when the expansion of power gets the nod, like announcing the agent has total immunity. That's when the loss of rights gets justified, because any counter evidence, like a video or a medical timeline, it gets crushed to protect the tribe. The way out of this is knowledge, and the irony is not lost on me, because you literally cannot access the knowledge you need to critically think and reason when you are chronically locked in the fear center. So this is going to come with some willingness, but these are the things you need to do. Learn the science. Terms like amygdala hijack, conditioned fear response, authoritarian predisposition. This is the manual of your brain. It teaches you why you feel a surge of panic when certain slogans are said, or why you might immediately dismiss someone if they're from a different tribe. When you understand that frantic feeling in your chest or the rigid certainty in your mind is a triggered fear response, you can then pause. You can audit the program instead of just running the old script. These mechanisms I'm talking about are ancient. It's used in cults, in toxic families, in extremist ideologies, and in authoritarian systems. It works because it hijacks our most basic human wiring, our need to belong, and our innate instinct to fear a threat. That resistance you might feel right now, the urge to dismiss this, that's not you thinking. That's you fearing. That's the sign the old program's running. It's the lock on the fear center. Recognizing that is the first step to disarming it. The very resistance that you have to questioning, that's the clearest sign that the mechanisms are in play. True reasoning runs on questions. Now you know, you're stuck. You're stuck in a very small part of your brain. And there's so much more for you to know and understand. And it's possible, but you have to be willing to recognize what the signs are your body's telling you. And you have to be willing to learn, not be afraid of learning. But again, I want to remind you, the irony is not lost on me. It's really hard to learn when you can't access that part of your brain. So if you can understand that part, I think it will get you a little bit further along. And that's what my hope is.